Okay, so let's create a plane, and I have auto grid on. I guess this side should be fine. So now I'm gonna bring down the length segments to 7 and the width segments to 7. You may add an edit poly on top. Then under the polygon, I'm gonna go to generate topology. Now I'm gonna select this one, that is tiles, and hit it a couple of times. Then I'm gonna undo to see which one I like. So this one should be fine. Now I'm gonna close this one and delete the parts that I don't want. Okay, let's delete these. And also I'm gonna delete this one. Probably even one of these. Okay, fine. Now I'm gonna select all of these and insert those in. So shift click on this icon. Then I'm gonna insert by polygon and add about 1 centimeter of inset. So this should be fine. Let me isolate this one. Now press Ctrl I to invert the selection and hit delete. I'm gonna select the border and press Ctrl S to select all and shift click to add some polygons here. Okay, now I'm gonna add a push modifier and push them out about 1 centimeter. Now I'm gonna remove some of these edges that I don't want. So let's add an editable poly on top. Press 2 and select the edges that you do not want and delete those. Okay, make sure that you delete those with the vertices. So let me delete these. Now go back to edge mode and I'm gonna press F3 so I can see the edges a little bit easier. Okay, so I'll pause the video and do the rest and we'll continue from. Okay, so I removed almost all of them. So now let's go back to shaded mode and I'm gonna use my sweep loop tool to add some edges around all of these corners. But I guess using a connect would be easier, so I'm gonna select all of these edges. Now add a connect. Option box, and I'm gonna add 2 connects and move them apart. Okay, just like so. Hit OK. Now select all of these in this row and we'll be adding a connect. Okay, now shift click the connect here and hit OK. So this should be fine. Let's undo this one. I'm gonna decrease the amount of separation between the edges, so I guess 94 should be fine. Now I'm going to change some of the shapes. So let's go to element selection mode and delete some of the elements. Okay, now I'm gonna select again the element mode and select this one. Control click the vertex mode, deselect these and bring this here. The reason that I'm first using the element mode is because it's getting a little harder to select all of these vertices one by one, so it's much easier if you convert those selections. Okay, let's say that's fine for right now. I'll continue to refine those in between lessons. So this is fine for right now. Now I'm gonna add a mesh smooth, add iteration of 1 and an editable poly on top. Now I'm gonna add another mesh smooth and this time with a noise modifier on top. Let's go noise. Okay, I'm gonna bring down the scale to, let's go for 10 and the X value to 1, Y to 1 and Z to 0.5. Okay, let's bring down the scale to 5, 6, okay, so this is fine. Now let's add another editable poly on top and go to freeform and select the push and pull. In fact, since I don't need any of these, I'm gonna collapse all of these down, so it will be much faster when I'm gonna work on the geometry. So select push and pull again. You can use Ctrl Shift and left click up and down to increase or decrease the brush radius, and you may use Alt and Shift to decrease or increase the strength. Okay, so I'm gonna hold down Shift and go around some of these edges to push them in. Even though I'm not going to be using the geometry for the final output, we'll be going to use vray hair, or rather vray fair, on top of this. Okay, so I'll pause the video here and continue the rest of the elements. So we're going to have some sort of variation in the surface of our elements. Okay, so now this one is the last one. Fine, now let's go back to perspective mode, get out of the isolation mode, and bring them up. Okay, now I'm gonna fix some of the areas that are penetrating to the ground. So let's go back to push and pull. I'm not really worried about all of those, since again I'm gonna grow fair on top of these. Okay, so it's fine. Okay, now for the connections between them, I'm gonna use a spline. So let's create a line. Then select the segment and divide it into two. Press 1 and select these two, and R for scale, and scale them out. Then I'm gonna select these two and bring them down. Let's go isolate it and scale them in. Okay, now select these two and go to smooth. Great. Now press 3 to go to spline mode and just copy this one here. Let's add a cross section and a surface modifier. Now let's bring down the threshold. Okay, so it should be fine. You could increase the steps if you want to make it smoother. Now I'm going to add an editable poly and a shell modifier on top. Let's set this one to be 0.2. So I guess this is fine. Now I'm going to scale it, or rather rotate it here, just like so. Instance. Let's go back down to spline mode, and I'm gonna move this one. So this is fine. You could also go to local mode and it will be easier to move it around. Great. Now let's move this one up just a bit. So this should be fine. Alright. Now I'm gonna group this one. And scale them down. Great. Let's go back to perspective mode and place it here and bring it up. Okay, now let's place it randomly around. So to connect all of these. You may also change the rotation slightly. Okay, now let's go under edit and I want to bring my transform toolbox, so this makes it easier to rotate on 90 degrees, or let's type in 45. Okay, great. Probably we need one in here, so let me select one of these and copy this one here. So this should be fine. Now let me close this one. Now we're gonna add vray fair on top of these. Okay, now I'm gonna select this element and Alt Q to isolate it. And let's go to element mode. I'm gonna detach all of these so it would be easier to add vray fair, since I'm gonna be using different materials and textures on top of those. It will make it easier. So I select each one of those and go under modeling and shift click the detach and detach the object. Then I'm gonna select each element and use my keyboard shortcut to make it easier. In fact, the keyboard shortcut is the one for repeat last. I don't know, this should be somewhere around here. I guess the shortcut is named colon, that is 2 points on top of each other. The second key to enter key, that is the second left. Okay, so now I'm gonna add a vray fair. Let's select the vray fair, and in the length I'm gonna add, or just put in 1. Decrease the thickness to 0.1, and I guess everything else is fine. Now for the density, I'm gonna choose per area and set this one to be 10. Great. Now I can select any of those and add the vray fair. And if I select the vray fair, you can see that it's going to be using the same settings. Let's put this one aside and select this one. You can see that it's also going to use the settings that I just entered on the first vray fair. So I can easily select any of those and add vray fair. There's also a shortcut here in the vray 3.0. I think one of these here, but again, I've added those into my marking menus or quad menus to make it easier. Okay, great. So this is it for this part of the tutorial, and in the next tutorial we'll continue